I wanted to talk about this. The Game has apparently lost his house as a result of his sexual assault case.
This is the real reason why the Game gets no respect in hip-hop despite 3 #1 albums and a career built on reviving the entire West Coast sound. Jayceon Terrell Taylor has spent over 20 years in the industry, moved millions of records, and can genuinely out-rap a lot of his peers. But when it comes to the culture's inner circle, he's been kept at arm's length since day one. The 2022 Super Bowl halftime show made that painfully obvious to everyone watching. What we're breaking down today covers everything from the G-Unit explosion, to the name-dropping criticism, to the beefs that went absolutely nowhere, to the controversies that keep haunting him. By the time we're done here, you'll understand exactly why one of hip-hop's most commercially dominant artists remains one of its most disrespected. Understanding why Game doesn't get respect now means going back to where he started and how high he actually climbed before everything fell apart. November 29, 1979 marked the birth of Jayceon Terrell Taylor in Compton, California, and both of his parents were Crips gang members at the time. Growing up in a Crip-controlled neighborhood didn't stop him from joining the Cedar Block Piru Bloods through his older half-brother Big Face 100, which tells you something about how complicated his early life was.
Could have been pushed to Eminem heights. 50 got pushed to those heights because he played nice, and Eminem and him are like this. You know what I'm saying? Niggas don't even know that M wouldn't even do the Super Bowl unless 50 was on it. If Dre ain't put 50 on the Super Bowl, Eminem wouldn't have showed up. So again, that's their camaraderie.
Foster care took 6 years of his childhood, starting around age 7, and a basketball scholarship to Washington State University ended when he got expelled for drug possession. October 1, 2001 changed the entire trajectory of his life. Game took 5 bullets execution style during a robbery at his Bellflower apartment while selling drugs, and he spent 3 days in a coma before waking up to a 5-month recovery. That recovery period turned him into a student of the genre, studying Biggie's Ready to Die, Snoop's Doggy Style, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt in what he described as an almost scientific manner. His whole style came from synthesizing elements of his favorite rappers, which would become both his greatest weapon and his biggest liability later on. His 2002 mixtape QB2 Compton caught Diddy's attention, but Dr. Dre signed him to Aftermath Entertainment in mid-2003. Jimmy Iovine and Dre made a decision that would define the next 2 decades by placing Game with 50 Cent and G-Unit to build buzz before the debut album dropped. That partnership worked perfectly at first. January 18, 2005 brought the documentary into the world, and the album was an absolute monster. Debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, where it stayed for 2 straight weeks. The first week moved 586,000 copies, and the final count reached double platinum with over 5 million sold worldwide.
It's me and 50 ran into each other at a popular strip club in Hollywood, West Hollywood, called AOD, Ace of Diamonds. We didn't really run into each other. I knew that he would be there, so I pulled up. Cause like I said,
the singles dominated radio everywhere. How We Do landed at #4 on the Hot 100, while Hate It or Love It climbed to #2, and both tracks earned Grammy nominations for Best Rap Song and Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. Critics gave it love too, with Yahoo Music calling it probably the greatest major label hip-hop album of recent years. What the album accomplished went beyond sales because it revived West Coast hip-hop's mainstream relevance during an era when the East Coast and South were running everything. Game kept the momentum rolling with Doctor's Advocate on November 14, 2006, which debuted at #1 with 358,000 first week and went platinum. The New York Times named it the best hip-hop album of that entire year. The R.E.D. album followed in 2011 with another #1 debut at 98,000 first week. Here's the stat that puts his commercial power in perspective. 8 #1 albums on the top R&B hip-hop chart, tying him with Tupac and Lil Wayne for the 3rd most ever in chart history. Commercial dominance across 2 decades of releases isn't something you can dismiss easily. Industry respect, though, that's been a completely different story. The turning point came just weeks after the documentary hit #1, and it fractured everything Game had built. February 28, 2005 found 50 Cent on Hot 97 announcing live on the radio that Game was being expelled from G-Unit.
Did the beef get so bad that you and 50 get into a shootout?
50 wasn't there, but we got into a shootout with like his armed security in New York, and they were like coming out the back door. I think 50 was getting in the car or something, and then the security came around the front, and then,
Multiple tensions created the falling out because 50 Cent felt underappreciated for writing 6 choruses on the documentary, and Game had refused to participate in G-Unit's beefs with Nas and Fat Joe. Loyalty tests came and Game failed them. What happened next turned a business dispute into something that still hasn't healed. Game's entourage showed up at the radio station about 30 people deep, a shootout erupted outside, and Game's associate Kevin Reed caught a bullet. Game responded with 300 bars and runnin', a 16-minute diss track running 300 bars that still gets mentioned among the greatest diss records in hip-hop history. This beef has been going for almost 20 years now. A brief reconciliation happened in August 2016 at the Ace of Diamonds strip club, but the exclusion from the February 2022 Super Bowl halftime show reignited everything. That halftime show deserves some attention because of what it represented. Dr. Dre reunited with Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and 50 Cent for a celebration of West Coast hip-hop. The man who helped revive West Coast hip-hop with the documentary watched from somewhere that wasn't the stage. When 50 Cent took home an Emmy for that performance, he went on Instagram to mock Drillmatic's first week sales, and the war picked right back up.
What happened?
Having a little, we had a little back and forth with firearms.
How you gonna, hold on, look, I understand y'all wasn't
I was
best friends, but come
24,
on,
man.
gang.
24 years old.
No, game, you used that when you was 14. You can't use that now at 24 now. You grown ass man. You got a kid and everything.
The real cost of the 50 Cent situation goes beyond the beef itself, because it severed Game's relationship with Dr. Dre. That mentor connection, the access to hip-hop's institutional power, the cosigns that come with running in those circles, all of it disappeared. Game's words on Drink Champs revealed the wound when he said that Ye did more for him in the last 2 weeks than Dre did for his whole career. Walking it back came later when he acknowledged that having Dre do anything for your project or touch any part of anything you're doing in life is such a blessing that he should never disparage that again. The damage was already done. That Super Bowl exclusion confirmed what many suspected, which is that Game operates outside of hip-hop's establishment no matter how many units he moves. 50 Cent barely scratches the surface of Game's beef resume because the documented conflicts include more than 15 different artists. Jay-Z occupied Game's attention from 2004 to 2012. Meek Mill tensions ran from 2016 to 2018 before they resolved things. Young Thug caught smoke in 2015. Beanie Sigel, Joe Budden on 2 separate occasions, and Lil Eazy-E all ended up in his crosshairs. The 40 Glock situation turned physical when Game beat him on camera, which resulted in a lawsuit for $4.54 million. Drillmatic featured the Black Slim Shady, a 10-minute diss aimed at Eminem that got absolutely no response.
And everything with me and 50 needs to happen face to face. We get in the strip club, he said, Rock, I need to holler at him. Face to face, man to man. And they talked, man, for like 10, 12 minutes, laughing, joking. It was cool.
Eminem never acknowledged it existed. That pattern keeps repeating where major diss tracks from Game get ignored completely by their targets. And Rick Ross hasn't engaged with Freeway's revenge either. Silence from the other side makes the aggressor look desperate instead of dominant. The 2024 Pop-Out concert added another layer of exclusion when Kendrick Lamar's event celebrating West Coast unity happened without Game, despite his Compton roots and his history in the region. During the Drake versus Kendrick conflict, Game stayed neutral and called Drake his brother, which isolated him even further from the West Coast establishment that was rallying around Kendrick. All the beef starting and inserting himself into other people's conflicts created a perception that Game needs the drama more than the drama needs him. Another criticism follows Game everywhere he goes, and this one might stick harder than any of the others because someone actually counted it. DJ Booth and Vice documented the name-dropping in actual numbers across 8 studio albums. The total came to 1,788 names dropped, averaging out to 13.7 names per song and 223.5 per album. Dr. Dre appears 161 times throughout his catalog, while Tupac shows up 61 times. One mixtape track called Cali Boys packed in 87 name drops without repeating a single one. Critics went after this tendency without mercy. The AV Club noted that lots of great rappers draw inspiration from hip-hop classics, but Game seems equally influenced by an almost obsessive-compulsive need to rattle off classic album titles. Slant Magazine described LAX as being like witnessing the creation of a mural of hip-hop's history in which the artist paints himself hiding among the famous faces.
That was our relationship when we was face to face. You know what I'm saying? It only gets misconstrued when we can't see each other. That if he get in my face, he gonna have to show up as like Curtis, and I'm gonna have to show up as JCM. We were friends, and we made great music. He can't make great music with nobody else.
Pitchfork's review of the documentary 2 delivered what became the most repeated critique, calling Game a grade-grubbing student of hip-hop with far more resources and drive than natural talent. That assessment stung. Game hasn't apologized for any of it, though. His 2022 Rap Radar interview addressed it directly when he pointed out that before he came along, nobody was doing it in that space. And now everyone name drops. He sees it as wordplay, lyricism, and metaphors, and he's fine with being the one who catches all the criticism for it. The problem runs deeper than style preferences. When you build your approach by synthesizing other rappers during a 5-month recovery from a shooting, and then spend your entire career name-checking those same artists, a question emerges about where the influence ends and the original artist begins. That question has followed Game through every album release. Authenticity questions have lingered since the very beginning of his career, and 50 Cent's claims keep that narrative alive. 50 Cent has repeated the story that he wrote Game's hits and saved the documentary from getting shelved. Whether that's entirely accurate doesn't matter as much as the fact that the narrative stuck and kept spreading. It feeds the idea that Game needed others to create his success for him. Yahoo Music's review of the documentary praised the album overall, but noted that the lyrics were almost totally lacking in shock value, humor, or insight. The Village Voice went harder by dismissing Game's rhymes as about 6 degrees from totally artless. Even the positive reviews tend to acknowledge his lyrical ability while questioning what he's actually communicating with it. Being technically skilled but creatively derivative in the eyes of many critics puts him in a strange position that's hard to escape.
Yeah, I was in it, man, but like I was telling you before, it takes you a lot of time to undo things that are second nature, man. Like, being from the streets. It take a lot of time.
But y'all was doing a press conference.
The legal situation made everything exponentially worse for his standing in the industry and in public perception. August 2015 brought a lawsuit from Priscilla Rainey, who had been a contestant on VH1's She's Got Game, alleging sexual assault during filming. Game didn't appear in court, and a jury awarded Rainey $1.13 million in compensatory damages plus $6 million in punitive damages, totaling $7.13 million. The consequences kept compounding through 2024, when Rainey received ownership of Game's record label LA Prolific along with royalties from Born to Rap, and forced the sale of his Calabasas mansion. Despite all of that, she'd only collected about $500,000 of the total judgment. This isn't old news buried in the past because it remains an ongoing financial and reputational disaster. His other legal issues sit alongside it, including a 2008 felony weapons conviction that resulted in 60 days jail time, multiple assault lawsuits, and the 40 Glock lawsuit over that film beating. Combining the endless beefs with the name-dropping criticism and the legal troubles starts to explain why the industry maintains its distance. The conversation stopped being about just the music a long time ago. The argument for Game deserving more respect actually carries some weight when you examine the evidence. Numbers tell their own story, with 3 #1 Billboard 200 albums and 8 #1 R&B hip-hop albums tying him with Tupac. Over 5 million copies of the documentary sold worldwide. Monthly Spotify listeners currently sit at 15.2 million, with career streams exceeding 3 billion. The documentary earned its status as a West Coast classic because it didn't just sell copies, it legitimately revived an entire region's commercial presence in mainstream hip-hop. 20-plus years and 10 studio albums prove the man has staying power with a consistent ability to land major features. His 2022 LA Leakers freestyle earned praise as one of the best in years, and reviewers acknowledge his lyrical ability even when they're tearing his albums apart. Born to Rap in 2019 pulled an 82 on Metacritic, his highest score ever, with reviewers calling it a lesson in storytelling and noting that Game has never received enough credit for that skill. None of that translated into respect, though. The answer to why comes down to multiple factors colliding at once over 2 decades.
Money didn't change how I felt when I landed back in California, man. So I know, man, I got this early entry bipolar shit going sometimes, man.
Okay.
And but I tell people all the time, I think that in some form or nature,
The 50 Cent beef stripped away his institutional access. Being on the outs with 50, and by extension Dre, meant losing the cosigns, the collaborations, and the invitations to major industry events. That Super Bowl exclusion traced directly back to bridges burned 20 years earlier. Constant beefing made him look attention-seeking to the culture at large. When Eminem completely ignores your 10-minute diss track, when Rick Ross won't engage, when you keep launching conflicts that go nowhere, your standing takes damage. The culture respects moving in silence more than non-stop talking. The name-dropping became a running joke. What Game sees as wordplay and lyricism reads to critics as an inability to forge a distinct artistic identity. Dropping 1,788 names across 8 albums makes it hard to argue you're creating greatness rather than borrowing proximity to it. Legal troubles brought their own weight because the sexual assault judgment damaged his reputation in ways no album release could repair. Losing your record label to a lawsuit sends a message that has nothing to do with bars. Comparing him to his contemporaries reveals the gap clearly. Kendrick holds a Pulitzer Prize, 50 built a business empire. Game's contribution to that conversation is more beefs and an album that sold 25,000 first week. That sales decline tells a brutal story on its own. Dramatic in 2022 moved 25,000 copies in its first week, while the documentary back in 2005 moved 586,000. Watching a 95% drop in commercial power happen to an artist puts his current position in stark perspective. Game has articulated his perspective on all of this without holding back. His tweet stated plainly that he never got flowers from the industry because he wouldn't be a puppet for the dollar bill. He's claimed credit for helping launch West Coast careers and told people to ask Dr. Dre, ask Top Dog, ask everybody, because he's been solid for people since 2003 in this industry. His claims about contributing to the region's revival hold weight. The documentary turns 20 years old with vinyl reissues celebrating its legacy. That album is an undeniable classic in the catalog of West Coast hip-hop. Influence and respect operate on different tracks though, and one doesn't automatically convert to the other. The real reason the Game gets no respect in hip-hop comes down to accumulation rather than any single cause. The G-Unit beef never ended and cost him his mentor relationship with Dr. Dre, along with all the access that came with it. Starting conflicts that targets ignore became a pattern that diminished rather than elevated him. Those 1,788 name drops made critics question whether he possessed his own identity at all. A legal judgment stripped away his record label and his mansion. Positioning himself as neutral during Drake versus Kendrick isolated him from West Coast unity when it mattered most. Game made choices across 20 years about artistic style, about who to go after, about how to handle legal situations. Those choices accumulated into a reputation that no amount of chart success could outweigh. Commercially successful yet institutionally excluded. Lyrically skilled yet critically dismissed. Authentically from Compton yet questioned on authenticity anyway. The documentary still hits. Born to Rap showed growth and evolution. The technical ability is undeniable when you actually listen. The culture has decided that his contributions don't outweigh his controversies though. And until that calculation shifts, Game will remain hip-hop's most successful outsider. That's the real reason he gets no respect. All right, that's the full breakdown, so drop a comment and let me know whether you think Game deserves more respect or if he earned this reputation himself. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.